by 1942. The war in the Atlantic was going badly.
Very badly.
A relentless plague of German U-boats was strangling Britain's supply lines, and the Allies were losing. A huge part of the U-boat's success was a secret network of support ships that fed them intelligence and supplies. 3 of these critical vessels, an Italian liner and 2 German tugs, were sitting pretty in the neutral, heavily guarded port of Santa Isabel on the Spanish island of Fernando Po.
Attacking them was out of the question. It would be an act of war against a neutral country, and the last thing the Allies needed was for Spain to join the Axis.
But sinking them wasn't enough. So, Winston Churchill's secret organization, the Special Operations Executive, better known as the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, cooked up a plan that was completely insane and utterly brilliant. They wouldn't sink the ships.
They were going to steal them. This was a job for a new kind of soldier, the kind Churchill had in mind when he demanded they set Europe ablaze. These were the men of the Special Operations Executive, or SO, a top-secret unit skilled in sabotage, espionage, and all the things that fell way outside the normal rules of war.
The man tapped to lead this heist was Major Gus March Phillips.
He was a charismatic, eccentric officer who survived Dunkirk and was itching to take the fight to the enemy in a less conventional way. He was part writer, part sportsman, and a born leader who had no time for military bureaucracy.
His team was the Small-Scale Raiding Force, also known as Number 62 Commando, a tight-knit group of just 55 elite operatives who answered only to the SOE.
March Phillips and his crew were first sent to West Africa to hunt for secret U-boat bases.
Their ride was the Maid Honor, a 65-ton fishing trawler that looked perfectly innocent on the outside but was crewed by commandos and crammed with hidden weapons. After weeks of searching turned up nothing, a new target came into focus.
The plan, codenamed Operation Postmaster, was breathtakingly arrogant. It couldn't be a military assault. It had to be a covert heist with plausible deniability.
The team would sneak into the harbor at night, overpower the crews, and tow all 3 ships into international waters. There, a Royal Navy ship would just happen to find them and seize them as prizes of war.
The official story:
a mutiny.
The German and Italian crews, fed up with their posting, simply stole the ships themselves.
Of course, if they failed and British hands were caught in the cookie jar, it would be a disaster, potentially giving Hitler a brand new, powerful ally in Spain. The mission was almost over before it even started.
Senior British commanders in West Africa hated the idea, calling it piracy that could blow up in their faces. But the order came straight from the Foreign Office in London, which was a clear sign that Churchill himself had signed off. The heist was on. The force was tiny, just 32 men in total, 11 commandos, 4 SOE agents, and 17 local men recruited to crew the tugboats, the Vulcan and the Nuneaton, which were borrowed from the governor of Nigeria. The real key to the whole operation, though, was espionage.
An SOE agent named Richard Lippett was already on the island, pretending to be a civilian, and he started gathering intel. His most brilliant move was a social one.
Lippett realized the Axis officers were arrogant and getting lazy, totally confident in the safety of their neutral port.
So, he decided to throw them a party. He arranged a fancy dinner and invited all the senior officers from the Duchessa, the Lecomba, and the Bibandi. After a test run went off without a hitch, a second party was set for the night of the raid. The bait was set, and it worked perfectly.
14 German and Italian officers accepted the invitation, leaving their ships in the hands of junior crewmen.
On the evening of January 14, 1942, March Phillips' team sailed for Santa Isabel. They timed their arrival for just after 11:30 p.m., which is when the island's main generator was supposed to shut down for the night, plunging the harbor into blackness. But as they approached, the lights stayed on.
There was a tense, agonizing wait. The raiders had forgotten about the time zone difference between Nigeria and Fernando Po. Finally, the harbor went dark, and the 2 small tugs slipped silently into the port. March Phillips and his men pulled alongside the huge, dark shape of the Duchessa.
They swarmed up the side, armed with combat knives and silenced pistols.
The skeleton crew on board was caught completely by surprise and was overpowered without a single fight.
Meanwhile, below deck, other commandos were placing explosive charges on the ship's massive anchor chains.
At the same time, the other team boarded the Lecomba and Bibandi and secured them just as quickly. The entire takeover was a masterclass in silent, swift aggression. With all 3 ships under control, March Phillips gave the signal. A series of muffled booms echoed across the water as the charges blew the anchor chains apart.
Onshore, the partying Axis officers heard the noise.
In the confusion, some thought it was an air raid, and the ports and the aircraft gunners started firing wildly into the empty sky. It was far too late.
By the time anyone figured out what was really going on, the 3 stolen ships were already being towed slowly out of the harbor and into the open sea.
From the moment they entered the harbor to the moment they left with their prizes, the whole thing took just 30 minutes. They had captured 3 enemy ships, taken 29 prisoners, and suffered 0 casualties, all without firing a single shot. The getaway wasn't exactly smooth.
The old tugboat engine strained and sputtered under the massive load, and tow ropes snapped. But luck was on their side.
The next day, the Covert HMS Violet showed up right on schedule, capturing the stolen flotilla and making the cover story official. The Spanish authorities were furious and deeply embarrassed, and they lodged an official protest. But the British government just played dumb, coolly suggesting it must have been a mutiny.
With no proof of British involvement, the diplomatic crisis just fizzled out.
For the Germans, it was a humiliating defeat, robbing their U-boats of a vital spy hub in the South Atlantic. For the SOE, Operation Postmaster was a legendary success. It cemented the young organization's reputation and proved just how effective these small, audacious raids could be. Gus March Phillips was awarded the Distinguished Service Order for his leadership. The raid became a legend in intelligence circles, and some say that March Phillips' daring, devil-may-care style was one of the real-life inspirations for James Bond after all. Ian Fleming himself was a naval intelligence officer who helped plan these kinds of top-secret missions.
But this ungentlemanly warfare came at a very high price. Just a few months later, in September 1942, Gus March Phillips was killed during another raid on the coast of occupied France.
Many other members of his heroic team also wouldn't survive the war, paying the ultimate price in other high-risk missions. Operation Postmaster was a mission that reads like a Hollywood script, one that never should have worked. It was carried out by men who specialized in making the impossible happen. They were pirates and saboteurs, fighting a secret war in the shadows with tactics that were anything but gentlemanly. Through a mix of brilliant planning, clever espionage, and raw courage, a handful of commandos sailed into an enemy harbor and stole 3 ships right from under their noses, proving that even in the darkest of times, audacity and ingenuity could help turn the tide of the war. If you enjoyed this story of historical daring, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more tales from the hidden chapters of history.